So as of recording this video, the Switch 2 Direct aired today, April 2nd, 2025, and I wanted to make this video to share my thoughts on it. So, let's start by seeing what I got right in my predictions video, and from reviewing that video, I can see that I got more things wrong than right. As for the things I got right, well, I did predict that it would come out within the May to June timeline. It's going to come out June 5th, while the specific release date I landed on, as a kind of just random prediction, was June 22nd. It's actually going to come out a couple weeks earlier, June 5th. So for the specific release date, I got that wrong, but for the kind of timeline where I think it would release, I got that right. So I'll say that's 50% correct for me. I also predicted that Mario Kart was going to be in this Direct, and it was going to be the most likely game to be shown off in this Direct, and I was right on that. Mario Kart actually got a quite beefy trailer at around 5 minutes long, which is pretty cool. I also predicted that Nintendo wouldn't really focus on the power of the Switch 2, as many people would think they would. I got that right as well. They did focus on the Switch 2's power, but only for a bit in the kind of Switch 2 overview section of the Direct. I also predicted that they would kind of focus on the top USB port. That was correct. They did kind of focus on it. I think the only thing they said for it was, yeah, you can charge the Switch 2 using the top USB port, and you can also plug in the camera accessory. I also predicted the C button would be a social feature that would give you an easier pathway to the voice chat of the Switch 2. I got that right as well. Almost spot on, actually, because the C button is actually exactly for that. It gives you access to the voice chat. That is literally what it's called. From what I remember, though, I think those 5 things are the only things I got right. The games I predicted, absolutely none of them besides Mario Kart were in this trailer. I said the most likely Kirby thing to show up in this trailer would be the Planet Robobot remake. That was, again, false. We actually got 2 new Kirby things in this Direct. I predicted that the Switch 2 would be $400. I got that incorrect as well, as it's apparently going to be $450 by itself, $500 with the Mario Kart World Bundle. I thought that they would show the upside down feature of the Switch 2. They didn't. And I think those are the only things I got wrong, which now looking at it, I technically got more things right than wrong. But if you look at the game predictions, then technically I got what I predicted. 7 or so games that show up in this trailer. The only games that I predicted would show up in this trailer that actually did show up in the Direct was Mario Kart and Metroid Prime 4. Planet Robobot did not show up. Star Fox didn't show up. Animal Crossing did not show up. Legend of Zelda Remake did not show up. Whatever else I predicted for games did not show up. I was kind of 45% correct. You know what? Maybe a bit less than that, but I want to say 40 to 45% correct in terms of my predictions for the Switch 2. Alright, now let's move on to the actual Direct. My overall thoughts on it. As a Kirby fan, it was peak, but as a, as a general Nintendo fan, it was still pretty great, but a bit underwhelming. So in terms of the stuff they showed, they started off with the beefy, almost 5-minute long Mario Kart World trailer, which was absolutely great and showed off a bunch of features about the new Mario Kart. It was very concise. It showed off all the stuff it wanted to. It was very engaging as well. It was a great trailer overall. There has been recent discourse about the new Mario Kart that I will touch on in a later video. But just by looking at this Direct and what it showed for the new Mario Kart, it was pretty great. It showed off a bunch of things about the new game, and I think it showed off all the things I wanted to. And there is going to be hours of gameplay shown for the game in the future Nintendo Treehouse events, which are going to be tomorrow and the day after tomorrow as of filming this. So that's going to be pretty cool, because I bet there is a lot of stuff to show about the new Mario Kart. But I am going to make a separate video detailing my thoughts about the new Mario Kart. That's all I'm going to say in this video about Mario Kart World. Next, I think they got into the overview and the features of the Switch 2, which I think they also did pretty well on. It wasn't too long. It was about 5 minutes long in terms of the overview of the Switch 2 console itself. And I think they also did a pretty good job showing off all the new features of the Switch 2. The stuff they showed about the console itself was pretty cool. It wasn't too long, so it didn't take away from any of the major game reveals. Aim share looks like trash. The voice chat looks identical to Discord. It kind of makes me wonder why they didn't just port Discord to the Switch 2. I feel like that would have been easier than making an entirely new application that is basically just Discord. But It was overall pretty concise, and it didn't take too much away from the game reveals. After that, they got into more game reveals, and oh my god, this was a major problem with the Switch 2 Direct. Listen, the third-party support for this console is objectively great, but they focused on the third-party stuff for way too long. Okay, it was definitely like the part of the Direct where you were like, okay, come on, let's get on with it. Show off some more first-party stuff. Listen, there were a couple of exciting third-party announcements, for me at least. Elden Ring, Hitman, those games coming to the Switch 2 is pretty great. But there was a surplus of third-party reveals. You could tell they're definitely focusing on the games that are going to be released around the Switch 2's launch, which may explain why they focused on the third-party games for so long, because maybe a lot of their first-party games are saved off for later dates. But it's just like, maybe cut down on the third-party reveals a bit. I don't care if you show off some first-party games that are kind of early in development or may not be released until a later point like fall of 2025. Not to say those third-party games looked bad per se, but once you're watching a Direct, you're not really there, at least most people aren't really there for the third-party stuff as much as the first-party stuff. A very big problem with the Direct as well was that the audio sync was terrible. This was especially prevalent during the game chat section. Like, it was awful. But in general, it was definitely the worst there, but in general, the audio sync to video was pretty noticeably bad throughout the entire Direct. And there was also a section of the Direct where it just froze. Like, it literally just froze, but the audio was still playing. It took a little while for the video to catch up to the audio, but while it was trying to catch up, it was like the audio was moving at the speed of light, and the video was like almost there. It was within reach, and the audio was just like spoiling a bunch of later announcements while the video was still stuck on stuff that was like 30 seconds in the past that have already been revealed by the audio. How did they mess it up that badly? I don't know if it's a problem on Nintendo's end or YouTube's end, but it was not a very promising start to the Switch 2 era if the first Direct of the Switch 2 is like this in terms of performance. But it only lasted for a couple minutes. It wasn't the entire Direct, so I guess it wasn't all that bad, but still, it was pretty noticeably bad coming from a multi-billion-dollar company. Now, in terms of the first-party stuff they did reveal, it was pretty good, but I think it still would have benefited from a couple more first-party announcements, like maybe at least 2 more first-party announcements in my opinion. Like maybe a new Animal Crossing reveal, or a new Star Fox reveal, or a revival of a old dormant Nintendo IP. At least 2 more of those type of reveals would have made this Direct perfect. But the first-party stuff they did show was pretty good, and the quality of the first-party stuff they did show was absolutely great. Starting off, I think one of the first things they revealed relating to first-party stuff was GameCube Nintendo Switch Online, which people have been asking for quite a while now, and it was great seeing it finally be announced. The problem with it was that only a couple games are going to start off with the GameCube Switch Online, which I guess is a problem with every single Nintendo console Switch Online, but you couldn't have at least put maybe like 5 to 7 more games in the GameCube Switch Online launch lineup. Whatever. That's fine. GameCube Switch Online just coming to Switch 2 in general is pretty great, and I know that I'm gonna get a lot of value from it. They also showed off Switch 2 editions of Switch 1 games. Only a couple games, though. I think the only things that the Switch 2 edition brings to the Zelda games are, like, enhanced visuals and stuff like that. There were also something like Zelda's notes, but I can't really remember what they were. The stuff that the Switch 2 edition added to the Zelda games definitely wasn't as substantial as the stuff they added to Mario Party Jamboree or Forgotten Land, which I will touch on. I don't know what they revealed for the Metroid Prime 4 Switch 2 2 edition. They haven't even revealed that much for Metroid Prime 4 in general, so that makes sense. For Mario Party Jamboree, they showed a new mode where you use the mouse cons to navigate mini games and stuff, and that's a really cool idea, and I think it works especially well for a game like Mario Party. Like, I never considered the fact that the mouse cons could work, like, especially well for Mario Party. I think this is a really great way to show off the mouse functionality of the Joy-Cons. As for Kirby the Forgotten Land, though, hey, wow. It's quite a big addition. It is essentially an entirely new side mode. I wouldn't want to say that, because I think more so it's like different pathways you can take in levels. But the extra content they showed for Forgotten Land, it was incredible. In my opinion, I know I'm going to sound really biased for this, but in my opinion, in terms of the new content shown for the Switch 2 edition, Switch 1 games, I think Forgotten Land got the most substantial amount of new content, because there's entirely new platforming sections. Kirby has an entirely new mouthful mode. There's apparently going to be new lore tied into this, a new companion of some sort. There is so much stuff that they showed for the Switch 2 edition of Forgotten Land. It's going to be great, in my opinion. I'm not sure exactly how it works yet. Again, I think it's like you take different pathways and levels to get to these different sections. I think it's going to be pretty beefy compared to the other Switch 2 edition games. All right, now we can finally get into the actual first-party games they showed, namely Donkey Kong Bonanza, Kirby Air Riders, and, well, I already talking about Mario Kart World, so I guess that's off the table. These are the only other 2 first-party games besides the Switch 2 editions or GameCube Online that they showed. Hey, there was a Zelda thing, but technically I don't know if I should count that as a first-party title, because they are working with a third-party studio to make that. I'm just gonna count it anyway. I can't really remember what it was though, so I'm not gonna talk too much on that, but it definitely exists, so there's that. Donkey Kong Bonanza looks incredible. It looks so incredible. You can tell this is being worked on by the Mario Odyssey team. There is so much charm baked into every single aspect of this game. There are so many little details in the background and stuff. It just looks really fun. And Donkey Kong's new design, in my opinion, looks great. I think it is far more charming than the Rare design, in my opinion. Again, I think it just looks great. There's so much charm. There's so much love poured into this game. It's like if Mario Wonder was 3D, but instead of Mario, it was like a big ape. That's what it kind of reminds me of, because there's so much charm, so much attention to detail packed into every single little bit of this game from what we've seen. It's going to be incredible. All right, and then Kirby Air Riders. Oh my god. Masahiro Sakurai returned from the Kirby graveyard after 20 years, and he is working on a sequel to the last Kirby game he made. That's incredible. It was only like, I don't know, like a 30-second to 1-minute trailer, and it was purely CGI, so we got no gameplay footage. But still, it looks incredible. The lighting, it is so vibrant. It just looks great. I thought this was going to be a Smash Bros. Thing at first, because Kirby's model in this game looks strikingly similar to the Smash Ultimate Kirby model. For instance, Kirby is more pale. His design isn't as exaggerated as his other modern in-game appearances, like Forgotten Land, for instance. Anyways, this game looks incredible. I can't wait to see more of it, and oh man, they gave it a 2025 launch type. Come on, man. Don't do that to us, dude. Like, at least give us a specific release date. Don't hold us over with just 2025. But yeah, this game looks incredibly promising. And again, as a Kirby fan, it looks so peak. It looks absolutely so peak. And from the little of it that they showed, it looks incredible. But yeah, so that's basically it. Well, it was definitely leagues above the last Direct. I mean, obviously that was for certain that it was going to be a lot better. I want to give it a 8 out of 10. It was a great Direct, but it definitely could have benefited from just 2 more first-party title reveals. And if they showed off just 2 more first-party games in that Direct, it would have easily pushed it to a 9 or even possibly a 10 out of 10. Oh yeah, and if they showed off more stuff about the UI, like themes didn't make an appearance in this Direct, which is not very promising, but you know, maybe themes are secretly a part of the Switch 2. We just don't know it yet. But yeah, a pretty great Direct. As a Kirby fan, it was a perfect Direct, but as a Nintendo fan, pretty great direct, but there were definitely some things about it that were kind of faulty, and it definitely could have benefited from just a couple more heavy hitting title reveals or announcements. So yeah, thanks for watching everyone, and bye bye.